Hi, boys and girls. Petunia and I are here again getting ready for bed. And I thought, it's time to share a bedtime story with my girls and boys from room 106. I miss you all. Tonight's story is called How Big is Your Brave? So that's the title. The author, or person who wrote the book, is Ruth Sokup, and the person who drew the pictures, or the illustrator, is Allison Friend. How big is your brave? I wonder what's up there, Zippy said. If I had just one wish, it would be to hop in a rocket and blast off for outer space. Vroom! Not me, said her brother Gus. I would never go so far from my garden. But when you blast off, I'll cheer you on. The next day, as Zippy and Gus went into town, they passed a crowd gathered around a sign. Space Camp. Launch your own rocket ship. Win ribbons for the best in space. Zippy's heart soared. Oh, that would be fun, she said. Sign up, Gus urged. Zippy shook her ears. No. She said, look at all those big critters. I can't compete with them. But going to space is your big dream, Gus said. Wouldn't space camp be a great step? Like planting the first seed in a garden. Maybe, Zippy said, but it looks way too scary. Back home, Zippy couldn't stop thinking about space camp. She really wanted to go, but when she thought of those big, smart-looking critters signing up, her whispers shook. Would they laugh at her? Would they think a little bunny had no business aiming for the stars? Zippy looked up. The first stars were just beginning to shine in the wide sky. Oh, how she wished to someday soar near them. Suddenly, Zippy remembered something her grandma used to say, that your why must be bigger than your fear. So she stood up and brushed the dirt from her paws. She had made her decision. If she wanted to go to space, she had to learn everything she could. Scared or not, she belonged at space camp. Zippy's whiskers trembled when she arrived for the first day of camp, and she huddled next to her mom as the other campers ran about talking and playing. I keep telling myself to be brave, she whispered, but I'm still scared. Mom gave Zippy's a pat on the back. Being brave doesn't mean you're never scared, she said. Sometimes courage means taking action, even if you feel afraid. Zippy watched as two campers began to build a model out of the solar system. She took a deep breath and hopped over to them. I can make Saturn, she offered in a squeaky voice. As she molded clay into a ball and cut out paper rings, Zippy's nervousness vanished. Every morning, the campers learned about space and stars and planets and astronauts. Every afternoon, they worked on their rocket ships. As her rocket ship grew, so did Zippy's confidence. Before long, she was answering questions, asking for help, and making new friends. At home, Zippy read books about famous astronauts. Space camp seems like a lot of work, Gus remarked. I'm just reading these for fun, Zippy said. One camp is over. I'm starting a space club with two of my new friends. Then you'll be a real astronaut? Wondered Gus. Zippy smiled. Not yet. Becoming an astronaut takes a lot of studying and hard work, she explained. That's why we're forming the club. We're going to learn as much as we can together. Our camp counselor says it will be easier to keep our eyes on the stars if we help each other. She says it's something called accountability. After space camp, Zippy carried her rocket ship home to show Gus. He was busy setting up a juice stand to test out his latest juice concoctions. Wow, your rocket ship sparkles like the sun, Gus said, as he swooped the rocket through the air. Careful, said Zippy. Suddenly, Gus tripped. Crash. Zippy's rocket ship landed in the dirt, crumpled and covered with juice. I'm sorry, Gus said. Oh no, my rocket ship, Zippy cried. It's ruined. At dinner, Zippy nibbled on lettuce and looked sadly at her cracked, messy rocket ship. Mom offered to help her fix it, and Dad did too. Gus volunteered to repaint it. Zippy shook her ears. There's no point. I'm not going to launch day tomorrow, she said. I'm done with space camp. Dad looked over at the rocket. Such a beautiful creation, and now it's broken, he said. Unfortunately, we cannot change that. Zippy slumped. No kidding, she said. But you can change one thing, Dad said, and that's what you're going to do about it. Bad things sometimes happen, and when they happen to you, only you can decide how to react. You can choose to give up or choose to keep going. It's all up to you. Zippy nodded. She knew what she had to do. Zippy curled up in her room next to her books. She looked at all the pictures of astronauts who came before her. I guess they didn't give up easily, so I won't either, she thought. Time to get to work. Zippy found some thick paper and created new fins for her rocket ship. You could paint it silver, Dad suggested. That would add some sparkle to your ship. Zippy munched on a carrot. I have another idea, she said. Zippy arrived for launch day, nervous but excited. She was happy to see her space camp friends and admire their rocket ships. They were all beautiful, but Zippy's swirling purple and orange design really stood out. It's lovely, the teacher said. Were you inspired by the colors of Jupiter? Zippy smiled at Gus. No, I was thinking of my brother's garden. He grows the best beets and carrots. Well, that explains the name, the teacher said, with a laugh. The critters launched their rocket ships one by one, and Zippy's veggie vroom sailed to second place. And thanks to her unique paint job, she received a blue ribbon for the most creative design. That evening, Zippy and Gus flopped back and looked up at the stars. Do you still want to hop in a rocket ship and blast off for outer space someday? Gus asked. More than ever, Zippy said. I wish you would come with me. Only if the rocket ship has a garden, Gus said. Great idea, said Zippy. Astronauts need lots of food in space. How big is your brave? I like this story, boys and girls, because it reminds me that sometimes when we try something new, it can be a little scary, but we have to be braver than what it is that scares us. Well, I'm getting a little sleepy, and I think Petunia and I are going to turn in. Remember, I miss you very much. May God bless you. Sweet dreams.